Imagine sitting alone at night, replaying a single conversation over and over in your mind. You hear your own voice again. You analyze your words. You question your tone. You wonder what they meant when they paused before replying. And then another thought arrives. What if you said the wrong thing? What if they misunderstood you? What if this small moment changes everything? Now pause. Who is doing the thinking and who is being controlled by it? Overthinking feels intelligent, it feels responsible, it feels like you are being careful. But what if overthinking is not a sign of depth, but a sign of fear? Today, we're exploring the psychology of overthinking, not as a weakness, but as a pattern that quietly steals your peace, your confidence, and your ability to act. And if reflections like this help you see your mind more clearly, consider subscribing to Newsforge and sharing this video with others who are learning to think deeply without becoming trapped in their thoughts. Overthinking is rarely about logic, it is about control. Your mind believes that if it can analyze every possibility, anticipate every mistake, and rehearse every outcome, it can protect you from pain. At first, this seems reasonable. The brain evolved to detect threats. It constantly scans for danger, social danger, emotional danger, financial danger, physical danger. In the modern world, those dangers often exist in imagination more than reality. But the brain does not always distinguish clearly between what is happening and what might happen. It prepares through repetition, through mental rehearsal, through endless internal dialogue. But here's the quiet truth: most overthinking is not preparation, it is rumination. Cognitive psychology describes rumination as repetitive negative thinking, going over the same thoughts without moving toward resolution. Have you ever noticed how overthinking rarely produces clarity? It produces exhaustion. You revisit the same scenario. You consider every angle. You imagine future outcomes. And yet you do not feel peace. Why? Because overthinking feeds on uncertainty, and uncertainty is part of being human. The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that we suffer not because events are uncertain, but because we demand certainty where none exists. You overthink because you want guarantees. You want reassurance that you will not be rejected. You want assurance that you will not fail. You want control over outcomes that are never fully yours. But unfortunately, life does not offer that contract. Carl Jung believed that much of our anxiety comes from the parts of ourselves we have not confronted. Overthinking often hides something deeper: fear of judgment, fear of inadequacy, fear of loss. Ask yourself honestly, when you overthink, what are you afraid of? Is it embarrassment? Is it rejection? Is it failure? Is it being misunderstood? The thoughts are loud, but beneath them, there is usually a single quiet fear. Overthinking is not about the conversation, it is about what the conversation means to your identity. You are not afraid of sending the message, you are afraid of what the response might say about you. This is where awareness becomes powerful. Because once you see that overthinking is protecting your identity, not solving a problem, something shifts. You begin to separate yourself from your thoughts. Socrates famously said that wisdom begins in knowing that you do not know. Overthinking is often an attempt to eliminate not knowing. But what if you allowed not knowing? What if you allowed space between stimulus and reaction, between thought and belief? If this insight resonates with you so far, take a moment to like the video. It helps this message reach others. There is another hidden layer to overthinking: perfectionism. You overthink because you want to respond perfectly, decide perfectly, present yourself perfectly. But perfection is not clarity, it is pressure, and pressure amplifies thought. The mind begins to simulate every possible flaw in advance. It tries to eliminate risk by rehearsing outcomes repeatedly. Yet, ironically, overthinking reduces performance. When you analyze excessively, you disconnect from intuition. You become rigid, self conscious, hesitant. Have you ever performed better when you stopped thinking so much? Athletes call it being in the zone. Psychologists call it flow, a state where awareness is present, but overanalysis is absent. Flow requires trust, overthinking requires doubt. Which one are you practicing daily? Nietzsche once wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Overthinking magnifies imaginary suffering. It creates scenarios that feel real enough to produce stress hormones in your body. Your heart races, your muscles tighten, your breathing changes, all because of thoughts. The body responds as if the danger is immediate, but most of the time, the danger is narrative. This does not mean your feelings are invalid. It means your mind is powerful, and power without awareness can feel overwhelming. So, how do you work with overthinking? Not by suppressing it, but by understanding it. First, observe, not judge, not fight. Observe. When the thoughts begin looping, instead of following them, label them gently. Planning, fear, rehearsing, imagining. This creates distance. You are not the thought, you are the observer of the thought. Second, question the purpose. Ask, is this thought helping me act or helping me avoid acting? Overthinking often disguises avoidance. If you are thinking constantly about making a decision but never making it, the thinking has become a substitute for courage. Third, limit analysis time. Give yourself structured time to think through a problem. After that time, choose action. Indecision prolonged becomes anxiety amplified. If you're finding value in this reflection, consider subscribing to NewsForge. This channel is about understanding the mind deeply and learning to live with awareness. There is a deeper realization waiting beneath all of this. Overthinking is not a thinking problem. It is a trust problem. You do not trust yourself to handle the outcome. You believe that if you think long enough, you can prevent pain. But pain is part of life. So is misunderstanding. So is imperfection. When you accept that discomfort is survivable, overthinking begins to loosen its grip because the mind no longer needs to rehearse protection constantly. Self trust grows when you act despite uncertainty. Each time you decide without exhaustive analysis, you teach your mind that you are capable. Each time you speak without replaying your words for hours, you build resilience. Overthinking fades not through force, but through practice. Practice tolerating uncertainty. Practice acting before complete clarity. Practice allowing silence in your mind. The goal is not to eliminate thought. The goal is to relate to thought differently. You can think deeply without drowning in thought. You can reason carefully without obsessing. You can reflect without ruminating. That is mental freedom. So today, when your mind begins replaying the day, pause. Notice the pattern. Ask yourself gently, is this thought necessary right now? And if it is not, allow it to pass. You do not have to follow every thought to its conclusion. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to not know. You are allowed to move forward imperfectly. Because clarity often arrives not when thinking intensifies, but when it softens. Overthinking feels isolating, but it is common and it is workable. And remember this, Your mind is a tool, it is not your master. When you learn to observe it without fear, you begin to reclaim something powerful, your presence. And in presence, there is peace. Thanks for being here. Kindly drop your own view in the comment section and don't forget to click the subscribe button.